share with me and get to know me.
Working within it so that you can trust
You gotta
them.
be able to produce things. And I'll tell you why that production is so important. But before we go there, how do you use those two pieces of equipment? And
Success is not necessarily financial, but success is when you feel fulfilled in what you're doing. And then
to other women, they need to know their value, their worth.
But I believe everything that you put your mind to and you achieve, it's success.
Give us all the stuff.
Okay, I'll answer all 16 of those questions right now. I started in the music business at Sony while I was still...
And welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's show is so good. Let me introduce you. Our guest attended grad school while she worked for 2 companies at which she tutored students at no cost to them. While she was working at both companies, she saw the academic struggles of working class families that were disproportionately people of color. She believed that their little allotment of hours was not enough for them. Furthermore, she believed that the children in these families tended to have unknown learning disabilities and were almost illiterate and undereducated. Our guest reached a point when she realized that these families deserve more than that. A light bulb went off in her head, and she said, I'll start my own company. That's when she turned those experiences at those previous companies into what she has created this day, a tutoring company founded in 2013, a Step Ahead Tutoring Services, and she's operated it ever since. Y'all, please join me in welcoming Gabrielle Crichlow.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Fantastic.
I'm doing well. It's a fabulous introduction. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you on the show because education is so critical, and it's a passion of mine because it's the foundation from where we go in life. And our educators are so influential and so impactful. Tutors are right in there with the day-to-day teachers, supporting them, helping to guide and direct and support our young people to help them get a basic understanding of the things that they need to know so that they can do life and be successful. So what you do is definitely something that resonates with me personally. So I am super excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So why don't you go ahead and tell us how you got started on this journey? And was there something that happened? What was a pivotal moment when you were like, enough is enough. I got to do something.
Yeah. So I went to a small business conference at my church, but I actually went there for something completely different. I went there to talk about immigration. And after I did my presentation, I stayed, and I guess I don't recall what happened too much. I think I stayed to help out, and I listened to the next speaker talk, and she was talking about the benefits of starting a small business, especially being an immigrant, and how that would look in terms of the law and how that would boost your credibility as an immigrant, someone trying to pursue citizenship. And just listening to her, and it just inspired me because it was something, it's like the seeds were always there. It's like it's always in the back of your mind, just being able to create something that's your own and being your own boss, not working for other people. I also have authority issues, so that's a whole other topic. But
Relatable.
but just being inspired by what the speaker was saying, and just reflecting over my own life just made me decide, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take that leap of faith. And I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I'm just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it and kind of figure it out as I go along. And so I did, and spent a lot more money than what I should have, but I realized that a little bit too late. But now I've gotten my bearings, and I've loved the journey. I've definitely had my ups and my downs, my negatives and my positives. I even looked at my bank account. It's been full, it's been empty, but but I enjoy the journey. And even in the past few years, with what the pandemic has done in terms of the virtual world and social media, has definitely exploded things. But I've enjoyed the journey from beginning to end, and I wouldn't change it.
That's awesome. That's right, because all of those experiences, good, bad, and otherwise, make us better. They help prepare us for something bigger. And I mean, that's been my experience as an entrepreneur, that it's and in the moment, it might seem like a negative thing. It might seem like it's something that makes your heart race, like, and make you kind of anxious and like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But then, you discovering your passion in church, I can safely assume, I think, that you are a believer. And as a believer, you're like, Lord, okay, here we are. What do we do with this? Okay. So I find myself saying those words quite a bit. And then once he gets me through the other side, it's like, oh, okay. Now, if I come across this again, this is easy peasy lemon squeezy, because we've been here, done this on this road. I can do this. I can get through this because, I've done it before, by God's grace. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it helps being a believer, because it's something to hold on to. Because one of the messages of the Bible is, in times of trouble, hold on to God, turn to God. God is your comforter, and that message is repeated over and over again in the Bible, to turn to God in your time of need and trouble. And especially starting a business, and not just starting it, but actually growing it and developing it.
Right.
Definitely a lot of trials and tribulations. I think just having someone to turn to, even if it's, some people might see it as like supernatural, but just knowing that you could take your struggles and your burdens and put it somewhere else, and put it on someone that'll take it. Even just that idea of, even if you're not a believer or whatever, spiritual denomination, people are, I think the concept of taking the stresses and burdens and putting it, not just putting it on the shelf or putting it somewhere, but putting it on someone who will take them from you. I think that concept is alleviating and a relief in itself. And I think something like that definitely can keep an entrepreneur going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 'Cause knowing that we're not alone and there's someone who can handle that load is definitely a game changer for sure. So, Gabrielle, as you're building your business, so you're discovering all the different things that it takes to get started, find customers, find clients, the whole nine. Was there something that that you discovered along the way that said, "Oh, well, if I do this, then this great thing happens? Or, what are some of the lessons learned that you have discovered along the journey?
I would say hiring people.
Okay.
Because it's not just myself. I have a couple of people under me.
Okay.
I had more tutors under me, but I lost some during the pandemic, and I've been slow in hiring with that. But I would say in terms of hiring people, I've learned a lot about the process and in terms of where to find people. I'm familiar with Indeed. Indeed is a popular one. So because I've used Indeed searching for jobs, so I figure let me use Indeed to post a job, right? So
Exactly.
I went through Indeed and reading resumes, and I mean, Indeed definitely has evolved over the years in terms of how they sort through resumes, but how to pick them, how to reject them. A lot of this was self-learning, self-taught, scheduling interviews and testing,
Yes.
and preliminary interviews and writing contracts. That was another one. So shout out to score.org. So I highly recommend that free resource wherever you are in the country.
That was score.org. Hold on. We don't want to pass that up. We want to definitely give them a shout out if that worked for you. And it could help someone else on their journey. We definitely want to make a note of that. Score, is that score.org?
Yes, that's the one.
Score.org.
There's a free resource wherever you are in the country. So they help you set up your business. If you have any questions, they'll answer for you. So that's a resource there. There was another one. I think it's only specific to New York City. I don't remember the name, but they're the ones that helped me put the contract together.
Nice.
But going back to the hiring, so it's making contracts. It's and especially being in New York, it's what can I do in New York, because that's where I am. Can I hire people outside the state? And it's a lot of research that goes into it. So and then just taking a chance, like, okay, now let's get started. And being a tutoring company, it's like explaining to them that they'll have to wait for a student to come. So there's that uncomfortable conversation of you're not just gonna start right off the bat. You're gonna have to wait for a student to come, and that can be a challenge in itself. And that, well, what if a student doesn't come, right? Then is the tutor gonna stick around? So then that's a business struggle there that I deal with. So it's how to find the right people, and then what do I do when they come, and how do I keep them? How do I retain them? That's a struggle in itself. And then it's the financial part. Like, okay, so I charge the client this amount of money. So how much of that do I pay the tutor? Right. Yeah. So, cause it's in percentages. So, so how much do I keep as the business? And then how much do I give to the tutor? So then it's what percentage do I do? And then how much do I give that will incentivize the tutor to work for me, and as opposed to working for the competition. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I think in terms of hiring, it's a journey in itself.
Yes.
I'm still going through it as well, and especially in this post-pandemic world, where there's a lot where I'm doing virtual interviews now and virtual testing, and there's this explosion of virtual tutoring. So it's like, how do I navigate that world? and particularly using Indeed. If you want to put that on there, Indeed.com, where they integrate the virtual part into their website now, and they keep evolving their criteria, and they're doing pre-testing and all that. So, but all that to say, it's the constant research, and yes, Indeed.com. The constant research and the leaps of faith and the questions. Oh, there's a couple of websites that were really good too. But it's like, what questions do I even ask
Right.
an applicant, right? So it's like, it's one thing being the applicant, and then it's another thing being the employer. And so it's like, what do I even ask, right? And what do I look for? So there's a couple of websites where I looked like questions to ask in an interview. So I just and a couple of things popped up, and I'm like, oh, I would totally ask that, and what to listen for in an interview, and how do you know when someone's off, and what red flags should you listen to? So it's the interview questions, it's the contracts, it's the testing, how much testing, how many interviews, and just how do you keep them after the interview? So this, and all of this, well, not all of it, but I would say most of it is really self-taught, and I didn't really have a coach. So a lot of it was just me winging it and figuring things out as I go along. But I think that journey in itself is very informative, and again, I've been slow, in the post-pandemic times. I really gotta get myself back up there, but I think that journey in itself, it taught me patience. It taught me how to pay attention to details, what to look for, what not to look for, how to trip up the applicants. So it's a journey in itself, and then again, factoring in the financial part of, okay, how much of a percentage do I give the tutors, and how much can I keep that'll keep my business afloat, and how much do I have to charge the client to get my percentage, for the tutor to get their percentage. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. So a lot of it goes into the hiring part, and I think that's a lot in itself.
Yes, agreed, 100%. As an entrepreneur myself, as you're talking, I'm like, yep, yep, I can relate. Yep, been there, done that. I can totally, like, I'm feeling you, like 100%. I totally know where you're coming from, because getting up the entrepreneurial ladder, up the entrepreneurial hill can be a challenge, especially if you're kind of on your own and you don't really have that support system or the resources that you need readily available. I mean, at least you had the wherewithal to do research. I mean, that's what Google is for, to do research, to find out, well, I'm thinking about doing this thing. How do I do it? What does it take? Like my husband and I are now, looking into some different things, and we're like, well, what if we go down this road? How do we start? What does success look like? And then how do we mimic that? So, and that's one of the things that an entrepreneur has to be able to do, and has to have the stomach to kind of go through and say, look, this may or may not work, but let's give it a try and see what happens. Because, I mean, we have to do something. If we've got this desire and this passion, we see a need, and we honestly believe that we have what it takes to fill this gap, then we got to do something. And what's the worst that can happen? We learn something, and we continue to grow. I mean, wasn't it Einstein who failed, and I've used air quotes, like 1,000 times before he invented the I want to say he invented the light bulb. Y'all know, help me out. The guy who invented the light bulb, he's the one who failed like all those bazillion times. And but he kept on doing it. Am I getting it right? You're the tutor, Gabrielle. Who invented the light bulb?
I think it was Einstein. I got to get back to you on that. I believe it was Einstein.
Okay, we'll go with it. Okay. Anyways, a failure is not a failure unless you quit trying. And so that's the thing. It just keeps on making us better and able to overcome more, do more, and know what doesn't work. And the more we know what doesn't work, gets us closer to what may actually work. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. And you just gotta go for it.
Yeah.
And especially
Okay.
I think now where you have the explosion of social media, and now you can almost market for free. You know, it's out there, and
Mhm.
Google everything. You know, whatever you need to know,
Absolutely.
you can go through Google, and then there's free resources out there. So like score.com,
Mhm.
or reasonable, affordable things on like Fiverr. But all these resources are out there. You just have to hustle, and you just have to
Yeah,
put in the work. So if you're
that's
willing
right.
to go for it, and just you're not going to grow overnight, you know. I know, and then I talk to a lot of young kids, and they're like, "Oh, I want to be a social media influencer," and I'm like, "Do you know how they got there?" You know,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, and it's like people see. I mean, it is. I mean, how do I say this? It's easy, but it's not easy to make money on off of social media. But just knowing that, and especially like Facebook and YouTube, they keep changing the rules. So I think kids they just like, oh, I'll just get on YouTube and get rich.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that's unfortunately I hate to be that person, but that's the generation we have now. You know, like they'll just, oh, I'll just get rich off of social media. And it's like I almost it's like I want these influencers to just talk to the kids like, this is what I needed to do to get here. Like you can't just
Right.
get on YouTube and get rich, right? It's like
Right.
first you need to have a certain number of subscribers, then you need a certain number of views, then you have to put out content constantly, and
Yeah.
it has to be engaging content. And
Mhm.
then the influencers, they build off of that, and they do affiliate marketing where they're promoting someone else's products, and they're profiting off of that. And they're constantly doing that, and they're going on other people's shows. So, and then it's a constant hustle, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not just, oh, I'll just get on YouTube and get rich. I think they see that, and that's what they want to do. And you know, I remember someone telling me, oh, like back in the day, people wanted to be like a teacher and a ballerina. Now they just want to get on YouTube. But but it's like it's not as easy as it looks. Like um you have to have a certain number of followers. It has to be engaging. You have to actually put
Mhm.
out content frequently. And you know, people, like I was saying, people do affiliate marketing. You're promoting someone else's products, and in order for you to promote someone else's products, you have to prove that you have the following. So there's
Right.
a lot that goes into that, and I almost wish like these influencers would sit these kids down and be like, this is how I got here, right? And
Right. And
even
it wasn't easy and it wasn't overnight. I mean, that's the thing. That's the message that influencers, I think, should share, that this wasn't just a fly by night kind of thing. Almost kind of like, you know how when you're in school and you maybe a star basketball player or you're a star football player and you're like, oh, I'm going to the NFL or I'm going to be, in the NBA. And, your parents encourage you, your coaches encourage you, but they have that conversation that says only one in like a bazillion of you is actually going to make it to the league. So you need to have a backup plan, right? I feel kind of like social media is the same way, in that way. Well, and shout out to our producer for correcting us, and it's Thomas Edison who invented the light bulb, not Albert Einstein. So thank you for that.
Thank you,
It's
thank
been
you.
corrected.
Hey, sometimes tutors get it wrong too. So acknowledging their faults, but
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, and it's right, and we gotta I mean, if they want to do that, I will say social media has made it easier for people to make money and earn content, but it's still harder in that you have to put more work into it. So it doesn't, it's not going to happen like that. And to just kind of bringing it back to entrepreneurship, it's not going to happen overnight. And actually kind of going back to the influencer part, and even if they do scale so quickly, how long are they going to last? Longevity is another thing. And,
True.
Yeah, you're good for you're hot and spicy for 2 years and then that's it. So how do you keep going? How do you stay in business for 4 years, for 6 years, for 8 years? How do you
Right. Or
stay
sustain
relevant?
yourself
How
in
do
a
you keep
family.
going?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. That's such a great point. I mean, because if you're young and you're an influencer, and which I'm assuming your clients are still in school, so they're pretty young, but one day they're going to have a family and get married and have a family and have to support them. Is their YouTube channel going to be able to support them in that? It's unfortunately, the odds aren't very good or are not in their favor for most people. And so they have to have a proper education so that they can have something to fall back on. So like when I was in school, I loved to sing and dance and be in musicals and things like that. And my mom was so supportive and she was like, "You're so good." And so she would ask me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to be a singer and I want to be a dancer and I want to be an actress and la 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 la." And she was like, "And you would be so amazing at that. But those jobs are very hard to come by. So you need to have some employable skills to fall back on so that while you're working on that as a hobby, you will have a way to pay your bills and you'll be able to take care of yourself and get through life as a contributing person to society by working while you pursue your singing and dancing and acting and all the things that you want to do that may or may not hit or take off or that kind of thing." So I really appreciate my mom for putting that in me from such a young age that yes, I can have my dreams, I can have my loves, I can have my hobbies, but I have to have a good education. I have to have knowledge because nobody can take it away. That's one of the things she used to say. Nobody can take away your knowledge and your education. So get knowledge, get an education, learn things that you can use that will help you take care of yourself. And so that's one of the things that's why I said the teachers and tutors are the best influencers for so many of the young people in school today, because what you put into them forms the basis of them as human beings and helps them to be great human beings. Your influence as a tutor or as an educator, it lasts a lifetime. And it's so impactful, and the ripple effect of it is so impactful, because not only are you impacting the life of the one child that you may be engaging with, that one child is going to grow up and impact others, a lot of times based on what they've learned from you as their tutor and the patience you had with them and the way you sat with them or the time you took with them or whatever it is that you as an educator did to influence their life. It's not just impacting that one life, it's impacting so many others because of the influence you had on that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely worked with countless students that their lives changed because of tutoring.
Absolutely.
I there's one student who said that she got her high school diploma because of me. There's another one that I remember was this one 8-year-old, not quite ADHD, but he was just very, very hyper, and there's a lot of redirection. Hey, let's focus. Let's get back to the task. Hey, let's focus. Come back. Wait, let's keep going. Let's finish this. And I think it's that instilled in him something, because I mean, the sessions wasn't very long, but maybe like 4 or 5 years later, the mom reaches out to me on Facebook and saying, "Hey, my kid's in high school now, and he's on his way to college, and he took a Regents like a year earlier than other people than people above him." And then she comes back maybe like another 2-3 years later, like, "Hey, he's on his way to college and he wants to go to law school." And I'm like, "What?"
Wow.
And I remember this kid was like, it was hard for him to sit down, and she was just very energetic, but it was a lot of like, let's do this, let's focus, whoa, let's come back, we're not done, let's keep going, let's do a little bit at a time, let's do 1 line, let's do 2 lines, can you go up to 3 lines, go up to 4 lines, and then it's just a lot of bringing them back to the task. And I don't know, because I mean, we fell off, unfortunately, but just of social media, right? The mom reaches out, and I happen to keep a lot of my parents' contact information over the years, but they reach out and they're like, "Hey, this is how the kid is doing now," and I'm like, "Whoa!" So it's like, what did that? So just seeing all the work that you put into these kids, and because I tutor myself under the company, so just seeing all the work that you put into them, and then just like seeing how they blossom, like 4 years later, 8 years later, and it's a gift in itself when the parents remember you and they actually come back to you 4 and 5 years later, like, "Hey, this is how the kid is doing," and it's like, whoa. So that's a beautiful thing in itself when the parent takes the time to come back to you years later. That's one. And then the second thing is, this is how the kid is doing, and you changed his life. And it's like, whoa, that's crazy. That's crazy. I was like, I did that? Whoa. So it's just amazing to see, you plant a lot of seeds, and it may not be a long time that you work with somebody, but just that little bit just, changes their life.
Absolutely.
Forever. And it's just like mind blowing. So when I hear stories like that, it's very satisfying to me, and it's rewarding to me, and it's fuel to the fire, so to speak, and and it keeps me going.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's like I said, I strongly believe that educators are so important, and like next to, I think, police officers, who keep us safe, they impact our lives so much. Educators are right up there. They are so impactful and can be the one saving lives right in the classroom, even by helping someone understand they are able, they are capable, they can do it, giving them those words of encouragement and giving them whatever it is that they need to believe in themselves. I mean, that is powerful. That is just powerful. And like you said now, and you've got testimonies, living testimonies of the impact that you've had as a tutor in the life of your students who are now in college, wanting to go to law school. How powerful is that? And now whose life is he going to save as a lawyer, right? It is all because of you and what you have done and the work that you're doing in your organization, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, that make it possible for parents to go ahead and to not be feel hopeless, like, oh, my child is too difficult. No, you call A Step Ahead tutoring services, and you get them the support that they need so that they can see themselves differently and start to believe in themselves when they see their, you know, see the progress that they are able to make. You know, when you look back and say, look, when we first started, we started with one line, and now look, we're doing 4 lines. Bravo! You're so awesome. Good job. You know, some people just need to hear that, right? So they need to be able to go back and see the progress that they've been able to make, and that's what you do. So speaking of reaching out to you and following you and finding you, how do we do all of these things?
Yeah, so the easiest way is my website. The website is www.asteptuteringservices.com. That's the easiest way to reach me. You can hit me up on social media. I'm on a lot of different channels. It's on the screen right now, but you could follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The account name is A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. You could also follow me personally. It's my name, Gabrielle Crichlow, on Facebook. On TikTok is Gabrielle Crichlow 01. And Instagram as well, Gabrielle Crichlow 01. So you could follow me personally, and you could also follow the company as well. On Twitter, it is ASATS2013. That is the account name for Twitter, and TikTok as well. Your producer is on it. Love it. So yes, TikTok, Twitter, ASATS2013 as well. And you can also follow the company A Step Ahead on eventbrite.com. You can stay in touch with all of our virtual workshops. So it is A Step Ahead Tutoring Services.eventbrite.com. So make sure you follow us on Eventbrite as well, staying in touch with all of our virtual workshops. Excellent. So I know it's a mouthful there, but in case your watchers, your viewers missed any of any of that, the information is, of course, on the website.
Yes, absolutely. And we got the pause button on the replay.
Pause, yes.
So press pause, make sure they can get it. And it's also going to be in the show notes as well, all the links to all the different socials where they can definitely stay in touch with you, find you, and hopefully to like and share this message with any other parents who may be feeling like their child may be too difficult, or they may have too hard of a learning curve or something like that, there are resources. You are a resource for them, and they can reach out to you and get the help they need for their child to help them get through elementary school, middle school, high school, doesn't matter. You're there for them.
Thank you. And if I want to just plug my podcast, which is also part of my company, it's called Hot Topics. So you can also find me wherever your favorite podcast platform is. So we do a variety of topics we've done topics on like homeschooling, artificial intelligence, self-care, starting a business, what is a podcast. So there's a variety of different topics that I've had guests on to discuss. So I wanted to shout out my podcast, Hot Topics, as well. So that's another way that you can, and there it is. Another way that you can find our company is through your favorite podcast platform.
Excellent. So what is coming down the pike for A Step Ahead Tutoring Services? What do you have? What's in your future? What's happening?
Well, I'm working on getting my podcast on public access TV. So I've been working on that for the past several months. So I'm looking to build that. So you'll see right now it's local to New York City. So if you happen to be in New York City, check out our podcast on TV, check it out on public access. So that's one of the things that I've been working on and I'm working to build right now. And as for the tutoring services, right now it's the reaching out across the other states of the United States with our virtual services. So that's one of the things that I am pushing out right now is our virtual services. So wherever you are in the country, you can use our tutoring services as well. Well, we still have our local in-person services for New York City, but that's one of the things that we're working on pushing the virtual part of our company. So wherever you are in the country, hit us up. The website is there.
Absolutely. Well, Gabrielle, it has been absolutely amazing chatting with you today, learning more about your business, what it took to get it started, where you are, where you're going, all of your social platforms, how we can stay in touch with you. Truly an honor to be in your presence. Just knowing the impact that you've had on so many lives. And so thank you so much for all you do. Keep up the great work. You were made for something great, so go and be awesome.